So now we're going to talk about something that looks like this, a cylinder. So a cylinder has two circles at the top and bottom with a wrapping of metal around it. So let's talk about an example of a soup can. Now, this problem is going to be based on the surface area, okay? So here it is. When you have a problem that asks you how much metal is needed for the can, we're actually asking for the surface area. Now, first we need to determine the amount of metal to make the can. So let's sketch a net of what our can looks like. So right now we have the sides of the can, and then at the ends, we have our circles that form the bottom and the top of our cans. Okay, and we know that this distance here is 4.3, and this distance here is 4.3, and this distance along here is 11.5. Okay, and each of them are in centimeters. And when we look at our original picture, it's 11.5. In here is our 4.5, and up here is our other 4.5. Okay, and each of them are in centimeters. So this is an exploded view of this problem here. So remember what I told you. When we calculate the areas of stuff, we need to know are you ready for it? The areas of everything that is the same and this part here in the middle. So these two are the same. So we only have to do one calculation, then multiply by 2, and then we have to calculate this part. So for our calculations, what we're going to do is we're going to take a little bit of time, and we're going to spend our time making sure that we have each of the areas calculated. So let's calculate the area of the circle face. So the area of the circle face is calculated by using pi r squared, right? So pi r squared is going to be 3.14 times r squared, which is 4.3 times 4.3, which gives us approximately 58.1. But remember, there are two of them. So that means we're literally going to have to take a little bit of time and multiply this stuff by 2. So there are two faces. So the area is equal to 2 times 58.1, which is 116.2. So the area of those two faces of circles is that. So now let's go and calculate the length, the area of the rectangle. So you have to recognize for the rectangle that this is true. That the length of this rectangle here is actually the circumference of this circle. So let's use that to find its actual length. Now you need to remember that length is equal to 2 times pi times r. So we end up with 2 times 3.14 times 4.3. So we find that when we punch in all that information, we end up with L is equal to 27. Now here is how we calculate the area of the rectangle now. Remember, the area of the rectangle is length times width, which is 27 times 11.5. And so we end up with the area being 310.5. And this, so now we have to add this and this to get the total surface area. So we end up finding that the surface area is equal to 310 plus 116.2, which equals that, which means that, so we need 426.7 centimeters cubed of metal. And that should be centimeters squared, not cubed, because this is area. So make sure you put that in, and it's 427.6 centimeters squared as our final answer. And we're done. So now, in order to do these problems where you're finding the surface area of a cylinder, you literally have to take your time and create a mesh or a net that shows the top and bottom of what you're looking at, and then calculate. So A, you're going to calculate the area of the face, and then B, you're going to calculate the rectangle of your cylinder. And you get your totals by adding everything together, and you're done. Now, a lot of you guys would love to be able to use an equation that calculates the surface area of any cylinder very quickly. This is the equation, and you can do it in one step. And this is how you would do it in one step. The basic equation for the surface area. You can do it the first way that I showed you, or you write SA is equal to 2 times pi r squared plus 2 pi times r times h. That's it. You use that equation to do it. Now, if you feel like doing that, you can practice it. Show me. Okay? It's not that difficult. What I'll do is at the end, I'll give you a problem that asks you for the surface area and the volume with a problem that uses this equation, and then you're good to go. But I will not show you how to do it. You'll have to do it by hand. Otherwise, you do it the way I showed you here, where we go through all of the steps and understand where all the numbers come from. So now, imagine I've asked you to calculate, to figure out how much soup is contained in an object. This is what we call the volume. All right, we still have our height of 11.5. We still have our radius of 4.3 centimeters on the top and the bottom of our can. Okay, but now we need to calculate the volume it holds. Okay, so I'm just going to give you the basic equation to help you out. So V is equal to, the volume of any cylinder is given by this, pi r squared times h. Now, let me tell you where this comes from. This comes from the base of the cylinder. So we need the area of the base, and then we multiply by its height. Doesn't that sound familiar? Isn't that what we did in the past unit, in the past lesson? So here's what we do. Let's punch that into our equation. So we have 3.14 times r, which is r squared, which is 4.3 times 4.3. And then we multiply by the h value, which is 11.5. And please remember, this is 3.14 at the very beginning. And we end up with 667.7 centimeters cubed. So for this problem, you're going to say the following. So the soup can holds about 668 centimeters cubed of soup. We could also say that this is, for centimeters cubed, you could have also said 668 milliliters. And we're done. So now that we've gone over what the surface area and volume is for a cylinder, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you a problem for which you could do it very quickly by using our equations. Remember, the surface area of a cylinder is given by this. 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi r h. And we're done. And the volume of a cylinder is given by this. Pi r squared h. That's it. So imagine I give you this problem where I ask you to find the surface area and volume of a cylinder with radius 18 inches and height 2 feet. Let's make our lives easy and make sure that all of our units must be the same. 18 inches is the same as 1.5 feet. So we have, instead of 18 inches on our problem here, we have 1.5 feet for our radius. So when we calculate our area, our surface area, this is what we have. We have the surface area equaling 2 pi times r squared plus 2 pi r h, right? So this is our surface area calculation. You kind of want to always identify that as you're doing your. And now we substitute directly. For the first half, 2 pi r squared. This is what we. So we have 2 times 3.14 times 1.5 times 1.5. For the second half of the equation, which is 2 pi r h, we're going to get the following. 2 times 3.14 times 1.5 times 2. Now, for the first half of our calculation, we're going to find we have this answer. And for the second half of the equation, which is all of this, multiply those out, and you're going to get the following. Plus 18.8. And adding them all up, you're going to get 32.9 centimeters squared for the surface area. Now that was pretty quick, wasn't it? So imagine how quick it's going to be when we calculate our volume. So for our volume calculation, all we need is our basic equation of V is equal to pi r squared h. And now, substituting what we know, we got 3.14 times 1.5 times 1.5, and that's from our r squared value, times 2. And that gives us a final answer of 14.1 centimeters cubed. And guess what? We have just completed this problem in less time than it took the other problems. So you got to be able to use these equations to solve your problems quick. So don't rush. Use these equations and you'll have way more time to calculate what you're looking for. If you do the other way, yes, you can get it right, but sometimes you end up taking a little bit longer to do the problem. And both ways are valid for the volume and the surface area. You can do that for both. I don't have a problem with it, okay? So for the cylinder, right, as a summary, what you really realize is that we add up all the areas of the circles and rectangles. You can do that to find the surface area, but we also found that the surface area was equal to 2 pi r squared plus pi r h. 2 pi RH, right? So that was the surface area of a cylinder, and you can calculate it in one shot. Otherwise, for the calculations, you're calculating 2 of the base radius, base circles, and then adding the circumference, which is the 2 pi r, times the height. Or you can do it all in one shot, like I showed you in the last slide. Now, as for the volume of a cylinder is given by this, pi r squared h. Now, you could have used what we studied before, which was the area of the base times the height. But the area of the base is so simple to calculate. Now, just remember, anytime you have r squared, you're always going to be doing pi times r h, really. Okay? And that's it. So go and do the practice problems that I've given.